Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. I'm Katie and today we are going to do witchy things to draw. If you're new here or if you haven't already, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and make sure you've got those notifications turned on. Shameless plug aside, let's have a little look at the prompts we have. So it is a 2-prompter today and we have a altar bell and some rose petals. Now I thought this was a bit of an odd combination and I just tried sketching out, I guess, altar bells. Although I did find rose petals a little tricky to do. It's actually hard to draw a rose petal. Well, you know how it is with me drawing botanicals anyway, but just petals on their own, I can't seem to quite get that yet. Now I did notice, or at least have some thoughts whilst I was drawing these bells. Perhaps I don't just draw the rose petals, maybe I draw a whole rose head. The stem and the head of the flower kind of bore a similar shape resemblance to the bell, and I thought, well, I can play about with that, and that's what I end up doing. Of course, you get to see the lovely conceptual drawings appearing on the paper now. So while that's going on, I'm going to give you a bit of a life update at the moment. So as I am doing this voiceover, it's going to be 1 week until I move house. This pretty much means the art room I work in is packed up. The only thing I have left out is the camera equipment and my lighting. And that's just in case Upcrate or Scrawlerbox decides to arrive before that moving date, and I can get on with that because it's a whole project in a box. Having said that, if all else fails and they don't arrive, I might do a Beyond the Box, but aside from that, there's not really going to be anything new coming from me at the moment. Also, I thought I'd better give you a little Mermaid update. Now, I've got a few prompts done and I can patch up a video with what I've got so far. However, I think it is time to replace the Himi gouache. It's been a battle trying to get them to work, and some of them do have some paint in there, but each time I try and reactivate them because they've been solid and then, I don't know, I guess brought back to life so many times, they're kind of losing their properties as being, good to paint with. And as much as I like to try and persevere with a material, when it's at the expense of me creating something that I'd be happy with, no, it's time to replace them. So I do have some new Himis on the way, and I'll incorporate a wee unboxing and a comparison with the old ones in the next Mermaid video, so hang on in there for that. So let's get on to the picture, shall we? So yes, an altar bell and some rose petals. I quite like the composition I've got here, and I quite like the framework I added. I think the contrast of those rather straight lines next to those curvy lines of the bell and the flowers, it works quite nicely. I also have Rennie McIntosh vibes here again, so but I think that works really well. I guess using roses and this line structure in the background is probably why I'm getting those vibes. The paper I'm using is the Paul Rubens glittery watercolour paper, which I featured, it's nearly a year ago. Well, yeah, I thought I'd dig that out. The pens I'm using are just liners and microns. And for the colour, I will be using the Marabou liquid watercolours. And again, I've featured them before. I chose this lovely combination of things because I wanted it to be colourful but delicate at the same time. And I also thought it would do me good to try and be a little bit more precise in my paintings. And seeing as this activates and comes back to life when you place any liquids next to it, I thought this would be a good exercise. And on a little side note there, I do tend to find that these liquid watercolours help the glitteriness of the paper come through. I start off by just adding some very light layers and building up the colours as I go on. The first layer I allowed to dry, and then when it came to the second layer I allowed some of that blue to merge in with the red there, just to create a little bit of tone and depth. And whilst that was all drying nicely, it was time to work on the altar bell. I had a little old look on Amazon to just have a look at what designs there were, and the eclipsing moon one seemed to be the most popular. I think probably because I bought this book from there, it must have kicked something off with the algorithm because I'm getting quite a lot of witchy recommendations at the moment. Whilst those details were drying on the bell, I thought adding a nice green background would work really well with the colour scheme of the roses and what I decided to do with the bell. I didn't want to go for a very vibrant green, I kept it just a little bit muted and added a touch of blue in there because I didn't want it to conflict with the green stems and leaves of the roses. The blue I used worked really well with the yellow, and I must admit I do like using these liquid watercolours. I love how they move across the page, especially when you're using a wet and wet technique and you can just keep splodging those colours in there. I do tend to find though, if you over flood the area, you do get some unwanted marks perhaps, so just take that in mind if you're going to use these paints in the future. I do quite like how these layer though, you can get a really good amount of vibrancy with this and it's very noticeable as well. I think these paints are really good for creating shadows because they leave a very definite line, but as a downside to that, you have to fill in areas quite quickly, otherwise it will dry and you'll have that unusual streaking, a little bit like when you use water-based felt tip markers. To really make things stand out in the background in the centre, I thought adding a black in there would work really well. And again, I am getting Rennie McIntosh vibes here, but I like it. I think it just seemed the right thing to do. The black itself isn't a massively strong black. I could have used it neat on there, but I think it would have overpowered it somewhat. So just having a dilution of it and moving it around on the paper just seemed the right thing to do. And sometimes you've just got to go with what feels right. So well past me paints in the background there, I'm going to put a few things out to you guys. With the move being imminent and everything all being packed up, it means I'm going to have a little bit of a pause. Obviously, subscription boxes aside there. But this might give me a bit of an opportunity to perhaps see what you guys want from me on the channel. Now, yes, I do have an interest in art materials and I always give you my opinion from my experiences. However, I don't want to fall into that trap of just buying stuff just so you guys will watch. I kind of want to make sure what I'm doing, you enjoy it because you enjoy it and not because someone's opening something exciting on a screen. Not that I have a problem with that, I'm kind of guilty of watching them myself. However, after packing up my art room, it can leave me with a lot of stuff that maybe I don't use as much as I should, so I just don't want to fall into that trap, unless it's something really interesting, of course. Also, would you guys be interested in a studio tour? Would you like to know how I store materials? Would you like me to do some unpacking of boxes? I'd really just like a bit of feedback there, or is everything what I do absolutely fine? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Anyway, we have the finished piece right here. Unfortunately though, it just didn't seem to pick up the sparkles very well on this at all, and I did try a few different angles, but it just wasn't happening. However, lack of sparkle does not detract from the finished piece and I quite like it. Let me know what you think. Anyway, I just want to say a massive thank you for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed it, and of course I'm on Instagram, so if you have a go yourself, I'll love seeing what you guys have done. In the meantime, I will see you on the next video, so take care and bye!